and welcome to this lecture on communication concepts. Now, you might be asking yourself, why do I need to learn communication concepts in order to improve my English? Well, for the purpose of this course, understanding the basic components of communication will help put things into perspective for you. And we learn English best when we apply it to authentic purposes. So, while the purpose of this course is to improve your English proficiency and to improve your business English skills, we'll also be looking at communication concepts throughout the course and throughout the specialization and applying language through communicative methods. So understanding concepts can also help contextualize or situate the use of language. So, what do we mean by this? Well, by the end of this course, you will be able to identify the basic components of communication. But what is communication? For the purpose of this course, communication is the process of sending and receiving messages. And we can do this in many ways. You can do this through written discourse. You can also do it through spoken discourse. Of course, they're not the only ways of passing on messages. You can pass on messages through images and through body language, or you might use a combination of all of the above. We call this multimodal. Now, throughout this course and throughout this specialization, we'll take a closer look at all of these methods of communication. We'll take a look at written discourse, written versus spoken discourse. We'll take a look at how verbal and nonverbal communication work together and how you can enhance meaning with both of them. And we'll look at how image and body language play an important role in communication, all within a business context. But for now, for this video, let's just look at the very basics, the very basic framework of communication concepts. So we'll begin with the sender. Now, the sender is someone who has a message. They want to send that message to someone else. So what they need to do is they need to take the meaning of that message and they need to encode it into symbols. So we call that encoding. So the sender becomes an encoder. They're taking the meaning, they're taking their message, and they're going to put it into symbols that can be later on decoded. And those symbols, for our purpose here, would be most likely words. So words are symbols of meaning. So what they do is we have the sender, they encode the message into words, and then they send it as a message. And that message goes through a channel of communication, a medium communication, and a mode of communication. Again, later on in this course, we'll take a closer look at what we mean by these three things. However, for the purpose of this video, all we need to worry about is that we have a person, they have a message, and they're going to send that message through spoken discourse through a telephone. Once it's gone through the telephone, it needs to be decoded. So those symbols, which are words, need to be decoded into meaning so that the receiver can understand them. So that's your basic framework for communication. You can look at it from another perspective as well. You can say that most of the time when we communicate, there's a reason for communication. We call that the stimulus. Why do we feel the need to communicate? Well, something has happened that has caused for the need for us to communicate. That's the stimulus. But we always approach the stimulus differently. And how we approach the stimulus and how we determine what message needs to be conveyed is what we call the filter. And the filter could be many things. It could be the situation, it could be the environment, it could be the purpose, it could be the audience, it could be even the intercultural communication or the intercultural connectivity. And these are things that we'll go into a lot more detail later on in the specialization. But for now, keep in mind that quite often there's a filter that determines what message needs to be conveyed. Once we understand this, we create the message. Then that message needs to then be sent through a medium. that medium takes the message to its destination, which is quite often your audience. How your audience responds to your message is the feedback to the stimulus. Right. Let's take a look at this in a more authentic situation. So I've created an incident for you, and for each part of this incident, I've aligned the communication component for you. So let's begin at the very beginning. We have Jan. Jan just received an email from her CEO. Well, that's the stimulus. Something in that email has created a need for Jan to communicate a message to someone. So in this case, she interprets that her boss, from her CEO, her boss, is worried about a new competitor in the market. That's how she's filtering the stimulus. She now sees that there's a need to communicate to her marketing team about the new competitor. All right? So she now decides to inform her marketing team, that's the message, of this new competitor. This is what she's filtered from the stimulus of the email that she received from her boss. She then decides that this message needs to be sent through email. So she emails this information to her marketing team. That's the medium. The email is the medium. And her marketing team members receive the email. So that's the destination. The marketing team members read the email and then they respond to it. So that's the marketing team providing feedback back to the stimulus of the email. So hopefully now you'll have a basic understanding of the components of communication. As I mentioned earlier, we'll go into a lot more detail later on in this course, covering a written and spoken discourse and how you can improve your English for these specific genres and types of communication. Thank you.